is this Catherine Goggia? And what kind of name is Goggia? Is it Goggia? Is it Goggia? No, it's Italian. It's a Goggia. In this episode, we'll talk about my camping background and how I became Girl Camping Guide Goggia of the Northern California chapter. Stay tuned. Hello campers, this is Catherine Goggia, and I'm the Girl Camper Guide for the Northern California chapter. Like our camper-in-chief Janine Pettit, I go places and do things, and appreciate other adventurous and curious women. We camp like girls in tents, vans, travel trailers, motorhomes, and even cars. We travel solo and in groups to girl camping gatherings large and small, and to bucket list destinations with friends or on our own to wherever the wind blows us. On this show, we talk about the qualities of a girl camper and how you can be a girl camper too. The Girl Camper NorCal show focuses mostly on my regional experiences in Northern California. The girl campers are having a party, and you're invited. The Girl Camper NorCal podcast is brought to you by our consortium of girl camper friendly dealerships, and I am eager to share with you in upcoming episodes about the Northern California dealerships who are getting on board to support this show, or the dealerships already in place who will support this podcast in addition to the main Girl Camper show produced by Janine. I am also hoping Camco Manufacturing will sponsor this podcast too. We'll see what happens. I have an R-Pod, a dune buggy for off-road adventures with my friends, and a boat. So I am a perfect customer and potential promoter of their more than 4,000 products. So, welcome to this episode of Girl Camper NorCal. When I went to Chico State University, I worked full-time and carried more than a full load of courses, earning degrees in English and communication, plus being actively involved in athletics. I didn't have a lot of time for typical college socializing. I wasn't just attending college in Chico, I lived there already and planned to stay. This meant I would meet new college students every semester, and then they would graduate and move away. Mostly because of my schedule and due to the fact that I was at a different place in life. I already was working full-time in my fields of interest, plus I was pursuing my own graphic design, photography, and cartooning businesses. So I just didn't have a lot of connections with other students in a long-lasting way. However, there was one student in my English classes who got my attention when she spoke. She was clearly bright and also had a terrific way about her. Before long, we were grabbing lunch and sitting out on the lawn together to further discuss whatever was covered in class and our thoughts on assignments. This was Eleanor, and I was so sad when she graduated and moved away, my one great college connection. Decades later, she excitedly told me her husband was retiring from his career and they were moving back to Chico. I was so excited. And when we got together, everything clicked as if no time had passed at all. Soon I was taking Eleanor out for boat rides and sharing my rockhound addiction with her. She told me about the C-Class RV they purchased and how happy they were to start camping. I then told her about my bestie since 7th grade, Pam, and how she and her husband purchased a beautiful travel trailer, and how proud I was of Pam when she towed that big trailer by herself on a trek to Portland, Oregon to visit her daughter. I've been encouraging Ellie to get comfortable driving their C-Class and suggested she join the Girl Camper Facebook group. You can see her January 2nd post about the Desert Sands Vintage RV Park her and her husband Paul visited during that holiday. When I told her I decided to reach out to Janine about being the Northern California chapter guide, she immediately offered to help in any way needed. Well, I took her right up on that and gave her the list of interview questions I had written for people that I plan to interview in the future, and I asked her to interview me for this introductory episode. We'll hear that interview right after I cover my product of the week and take a look at the 10-day forecast. My product of the week today is the AvaDry Renewable Mini Dehumidifier. Check it out. No batteries, no cords, and the product claims that it'll last up to 10 years. I was watching several posts on the various Facebook camping groups and saw that people were having issues with condensation inside their RVs, when it's cold or rainy outside. I typically just crack a window and I haven't had any issues with condensation, but I was interested in learning about the solutions that people were offering up, and several people mentioned this AvaDry unit. So I purchased one as a preventative measure. The unit has colored pellets that show through a little window, and they show yellow when they are dry and green when they have fully absorbed moisture. I made this purchase right before I discovered a water leak under my trailer kitchen sink. I got all the water mopped up, I drained my lines, I scheduled a mobile tech to meet me at the RV park the following week so that I could have that leak fixed. And without really even thinking about it, I stored that AvaDry unit in that storage compartment under the sink. When I returned the next week, those little pellets were green. Even though I had mopped up all the visible water, clearly there was additional moisture under there, and the AvaDry was doing its job. It's a renewable product in that you simply plug it in to dry out those pellets. You leave it plugged in until the pellets are yellow again, and you're good to go for the next round of moisture. Click on my direct link in the show description for more information on that mini dehumidifier. Taking a look at the 10-day forecast as I record this on January 9th, 2020, it is totally snowing here at an elevation of about 4,500 feet. I get whatever weather is predicted between 3,000 and 5,000 feet. So far, we've got about 5 inches on the ground. At the RV park, I talked with a guy who had just arrived from Fallon, Nevada. He was very tired and stressed after hours of towing in the snow, traveling at about 20 to 25 miles per hour. I was very polite during our conversation, but the entire time my brain was asserting this proclamation: I would never tow in the snow. I know, never say never, but seriously, I hope I never have to tow in the snow. In the mountains, we're expecting varying amounts of snow through Friday, January 17th. In the valley, expect clouds and rain. So what does this mean for girl campers? If you are towing and planning a route up toward Quincy or Susanville or over the coastal range or up past Redding, you need to be ready for snow. Better to find a centralized RV park in the valley. Get cozy and wait for this storm to pass. Even if you're camping in a van or a C-Class or even the larger A-Class units, these road conditions are dangerous. Even in heavy rains, there tends to be a lot of accidents on 2-lane Highway 99 that kind of parallels I-5 as you come up through the valley. So stay warm, stay dry, and stay safe. Here's what I am seeing on the Gas Buddy app for fuel prices. For gas in the Chico area, if you're paying cash, you can find it as low as $3.17. If you're paying with a card, you're at about $3.26 at the best lowest prices. And with diesel, you're looking at about $3.68. So this is a great time for me to take my pickup truck down to Chico and fill up that 40-gallon transfer flow refueler that I have in the back of my pickup while these prices are low, because with all these storms coming, I'm going to need fuel for the generator, probably extra fuel for my Jeep because I'll be driving in four-wheel drive a lot of the time, and that's such a great item to have that extra fuel on board. Okay, let's get on with the interview. Hi, Eleanor. It's so fun to have you in my art pod today. Thanks for taking time to come talk with me.
Of course.
You are important here because you are helping me kick off the Girl Camper NorCal podcast. This is our introductory episode where hopefully people are going to get to know me a little bit and understand why I'm doing the Girl Camper NorCal podcast. So thank you, Ellie.
Catherine, it is so fun to be hanging out in your R-Pod. We've been friends for over 35 years.
Can you believe that?
I know, right? And we've gone through so many changes together since our college days, especially
That's
in
right.
the early 1980s at Chico State.
Gosh, I can still picture us out on the lawn after class,
Right?
having great discussions about everything, actually, everything.
I know. So, Catherine, how did you get started camping?
You know, Eleanor, this is such a fun question for me to answer because it ties into my upbringing and brings me back to some of the most fun times of my childhood. Every summer when my dad had 2 weeks vacation, we went to Antelope Lake camping. I can still see it all perfectly. A few days before it was time to go, my dad would move our vintage Shasta, well, not vintage then, it was brand new, but to me now, vintage,
I love
Shasta trailer, thank you, into the front of the house in the driveway to make it easy for my mom. For those 3 days before we went, my mom was cleaning the trailer, getting it set up, pre-cooking her food, getting it packed with all of our clothes. So before we ever left, watching my mom work her process just created all of that enthusiasm every day. In fact, you know what I'm realizing talking to you? The moment my dad moved the trailer from where he stored it on our property to the front door,
I love it.
Yes, it was just like, it was all
love it.
part of it. It was so fun. Once we got to Antelope Lake, my dad would get us up while it was still dark. And the thing that I learned from my parents' marriage about vacation that is actually awesome about my dad, he wanted camping to be a vacation for my mom too. So when he got us up before dark and got us out in the boat fishing, it was so that my mom could sleep in
And have time alone.
Without us demanding anything from her.
Lovely.
My mom loved to read. She could wake up in her own time. She could take hours, because he would keep us out there fishing for hours. Then when we came back in, still our dynamic was different because my dad always cooked breakfast when we were camping, not my mom.
Oh.
Out on the camp stove. So
Nice.
my mom still was in the trailer having her own space. And it was not until breakfast was ready that my mom made her entrance back into the family dynamic. And I remember my dad's breakfasts, you know how it is, everything tastes better in the woods anyway. But I love to watch my dad make hash browns. I just loved everything about that. And then after breakfast, that was then all 4 of us family time back out on the boat fishing. And my mom loved to fish too. But here's the other great thing as a kid. When we went camping, we got to have food that we didn't get to have at home.
Right.
It was
Beautiful.
all super special. Then coming back at night, it would be, so we'd have some great dinner, of course. But this is what I so remember and love. If the weather permitted at night, we would sit at the picnic table by the glow and the hum of those lanterns. Do you know that hum of lanterns?
Yeah.
And we'd play cards, and of course the moths would all be coming to the lanterns. But to this day, the hum of a lantern takes me back to that time. If it was too cold, then we'd go into the Shasta and huddle around our dinette, and we would play games. I loved all of that so much. I thought, well, this is how I want my life to be. It led to me purchasing property in the mountains because I didn't want to only have that when I was on vacation. I wanted to hear that breeze in the afternoon, those pine trees at that elevation. I wanted to have that smell of soil when you're in the woods. So that's how I got started camping. What I would like to add, Ellie, in terms of our audience today is, especially for people who are starting out camping, I learned a lot from my parents by watching their process of camping. My mom was in charge of everything on the inside of the trailer. My dad was very vocal on all the outside setup and how to do everything. His expectation was that we would help, which we did. The other thing I can say with a sense of humor now, helping my dad taught me to not start crying every time he yelled at us. Because getting the boat on top of the van, taking the boat off of the van. My dad was Italian. There was oftentimes yelling involved. But you can't let it crumble. You know, you can't be moping around. We were a no moping while camping family.
Right.
No moping allowed.
No.
If we were going to help my dad, I had to have a thick skin. So that's how I got started camping.
Awesome. Okay, sister, so how did you get connected with Girl Camper?
This last year, in 2019, was an incredibly stressful and difficult year for me and a lot of people that I know and I'm close to because of the campfire that burned down my hometown.
Yeah.
I had a lot of things that I was having to work through, which you know about because you were a key part of us being out on the boat. And me just working through all of what it means when your hometown burns down, when your family house is gone, and what does that mean? Like, who am I? When all that's gone. So you've seen me work through all of that. Also, you are well aware of the stress that has happened for me as a result of that fire. I'm going to address some of that stuff in the next episode.
Okay.
But what happened, because we were still in high fire danger the moment the snow melted, camping wasn't on my mind with everything I was dealing with.
Of course not.
And then I didn't feel like I should leave home because we're in high fire danger. And so I was in survival mode, helping my family, helping my friends. You know all of that. But then what happened, to get back to your question, is long about October, I felt like it was time for me to get my camping mojo back on, start towing again. Every season I have to get my towing legs back on.
Right.
And so I started going to my storage unit and hanging out in my R-Pod just to be with it again. And just like, okay, we're gonna rev up here, because it'd been a year. So then on Facebook, and this is the part that I love about Janine Pettit. On Facebook I started joining camping groups, including Girl Camper.
All right.
And of all of the camping groups, Janine's energy, enthusiasm, she's also making videos, she's also doing a podcast. I was so attracted to her positive energy. Really, it just led me to, who is this woman?
Right.
When I began to understand the scope of Girl Camper, because of the other work that I do as a job skills trainer, as a blogger, as a photographer, making videos, as you know, I began to see that I had a little bit of a kindred spirit.
Quite so.
Thank you. And our Janine. Yeah. Well, then what happens? She, provides that video where she is decorating that R-Pod that they're going to raffle. It was a game changer for me. I just thought, well, why am I not decorating my R-Pod? I've designed my dune buggy. I've tricked out every vehicle. Why did I make the decision to just keep my little R-Pod pristine like it just rode off the lot? And that really was a launching pad for me. For 6 weeks, I was coming to my R-Pod all the time. I was listening to Janine's podcast. I was watching the Girl Camper posts. And the next thing then that happened is Janine posted. She was excited that she was going to grow the Girl Camper influence and that they were going to establish chapters all throughout the country. And they were looking for Girl Camper guides. And you know me well enough to know I don't jump into things. I started meditating on it for 2 months. Should I do this? Am I a good fit? What can I bring? How can I help people? How can I support Janine's, vision? And finally, a few weeks ago, I busted the move and I reached out to her, and I'm so glad I did. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. So I must say, before I go to the next question, you have just done a yeoman's job on the inside of your camper.
Thank you.
I am so jealous, I must say.
Sweetie, thank you.
I must say. And I aspire to this sort of decoration in ours.
I believe in timing. I believe that we're all on the right path at the right time.
Absolutely.
So I watched her productions, at the
Correct.
right time for me. Like, even if you don't know me, you could walk in here and you kind of get a sense of who owns this trailer.
You do. Please tell your audience about a challenging camping experience and what you learned from it.
I have two that come to mind immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go ahead and share both of them because I think
Okay.
it might help somebody else in the audience, even
right.
if just one person. So I'm going to tackle both of them. The first big challenge I had is when I allowed myself to get talked into buying a travel trailer that was too big for my pickup.
Oh.
I was adamant that it was too big, that we didn't need all that space. I was like, here's the stats. Here's my truck payload. Here's how much this trailer weighs. I was married to somebody at the time who did not listen to me and insisted that we buy that trailer. Okay. Even though I was the one that was going to be driving because it was my truck. You know, before we got together, I had that truck. It's my truck, so I'm going to be driving. I didn't take a strong stand and say no. As a result, I set myself up for a lot of unnecessary stress. And in one case, coming back from the coast, because I was going down a steep hill with a trailer that was too big for my truck, it was actually very, very dangerous. What I learned from that is never, when it comes to something that could potentially be life and death, am I going to not follow my gut instinct? It's just stupid because somebody wants to do this thing that has no logic behind it. Right, so that's the first challenge. Okay. And it really stuck with me.
Got it.
The second one was when I was breaking camp in Sedona. Okay. And in those days, the weight distribution sway bar setup that they had with fabrication in those days, it was all chains, and you had a handle, and you had to crank on the chains. It was completely different from the very easy system that I have now with my R-Pod. Okay. And when we were breaking camp, I knew that I was tired, and as I was setting it all up, it wasn't working right, and I knew it. And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working right. Instead of just like, wait, something's wrong, I'm going to walk away from it. I'm going to think about this. Maybe I'll go ask another camper. Hey, I seem to be working against the flow here. Can you get your eyes on this? Tell me what's wrong. I did none of that because we were eager to get on the road.
Right. Got it.
And I forced it. Something popped and the handle came back so hard it knocked me in the head. It knocked me on my backside. I almost passed out.
Ouch.
I could have lost an eye.
Ouch.
Yes. It was dangerous. I eventually, when I sort of came to, if you will, I unhooked everything and started over again, which is what I should have done in the first place. So again, it's similar to the first one. My learning was when I know I'm tired, when I know it's not working, when my gut instincts are like, walk away. I forced it and I shouldn't have, and I got lucky. I could have gotten really hurt.
But you're so right. Your gut instincts are so important.
And you've probably had that too, Eleanor, when you're forcing something. It's never right.
It isn't.
It's not right.
Agreed.
Whether it's relationships, your camping setup, your reservations. It doesn't matter what it is.
It doesn't.
Take a breath, back off.
Agreed. Okay, so my sweets, now that we've talked about your worst camping experiences.
Yes, thank you. I know.
Tell us about one of your favorite camping experiences and what made that so memorable.
Well, thank you. That one's easy for me. It was when I went to the Grand Canyon, and it was complete. Have you been, by the way?
No, I haven't.
Okay, we're gonna maybe we'll have to do a caravan.
We will.
Oh, maybe I should schedule a caravan for the girl campers. I don't know.
That would be lovely.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be awesome?
Lovely.
So my thing was I had the Grand Canyon on my mind for a lot of years, and then once I got that way too big travel trailer, that was one of the big trips that I had planned. When I went to the Grand Canyon, it was my first major travel trailer trip, on not associated with my parents, but here I go, I'm out in the world on my own, and I made all the arrangements. I got us there, got us set up. Actually, I was lucky. I got reservations and ahead of time enough that we were actually in the RV park there at the Grand Canyon.
Nice.
On the South Rim. Completely proud to report back to my parents that I was applying everything I learned from them. I was having a great time.
I think just being at the Grand Canyon all by itself makes it one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But the other thing about that trip, and I have pictures of my dogs at the time, I had 3 little dogs. And one of them was a rescue Brussels Griffon, and he was tiny, about 6 pounds. So I went over to Target and I got one of those baby harnesses that you carry your babies on your front. And it's very clear when you go to a national park, you are not allowed to walk your dogs on the trails and
Very
all that.
true.
So I'm trying to strategize, and you're not supposed to leave your dogs in your RV in the campground.
Correct.
So there was a lot of planning that went on. But with this little guy, I got him a dog camping hat, so his little ears came out, and then also a dog fishing vest costume, so it looked like a Grand Canyon perfect outfit. And I would put him in that baby harness on my front, and I would take him on my walks. Yes, I know I was breaking the rules, but my favorite thing when I think about it is, so I would be walking down the path on the South Rim at the Grand Canyon. People are walking toward me, and they see this little baby harness, and they see this little hat and outfit, and they think they're going to see, the cutest baby ever.
And they did.
Well, thank you for saying that, because he was. But it was, God, Eleanor, it was so hilarious to me. I think about it just laughing now. They would get close enough to realize either, and I never knew which it was, either their expressions on their face would be like, oh my God, that is the ugliest baby I ever seen.
I don't think so.
Or they would get an expression pissed off because she's not supposed to have a dog out here and she's breaking the rules. And then right after people would get past me and my little dog, they would mama, mama, mama. And I would always wish that I could hear what they were saying.
Oh.
And also, it was one of my big goals to go to the Grand Canyon. Thank
Perfect.
you. Yeah, it
Perfect.
was.
You are an artist, and your artistry has always changed with the times. You're always growing and expanding your horizons. You are.
Really, thank you, sweetie. Thank you.
So with that said, what do you think the next year in the life of Catherine Goggia will look like for you?
Well, I think that the whole girl camper opportunity is going to end up being a really big part of that, because it gives me the chance to bring together so many aspects of life that I love. As you know, in my career, I'm a writer, I'm a photographer, I produce videos. No matter what it is I'm doing, it's always about sharing information to either help or inspire people. And the Girl Camper experience brings all of that together in one role. Now, what you've seen me do is I take on usually several roles. If it's for different companies,
I do.
right?
Agreed.
My own website, Work Smart, Live Happy. Okay, yeah, all of it comes together there. But I'm doing that on my own. The connection with Janine, though, gives me the chance to bring all of that together in one role and have it be, yes, specifically my chapter is the Northern California chapter. However, I want to be connected with something bigger than myself. And
Right.
I really admire Janine. I feel good about using my time and skills to support her efforts.
Absolutely.
I'm still a professional trainer of employee job skills. I will
Right.
still do my own photography blog. But what's happened for me just recently is that Girl Camper is going to move into the forefront as a priority. And I'm just really, really excited about it.
I
Me
love
too.
it.
Me
I am
too.
so happy about this.
Yeah, and that actually fits more than one goal for me. One of my camping goals for this year was to be camping a lot more, get back on the road, tow again, get really comfortable with my setup. One of my camping plans for this year is to go out at least twice a month on an adventure.
Right.
And so the Girl Camper experience absolutely supports that other goal too.
Beautiful.
It sets that all in for me.
Nice. I love it. I'm just wondering if you have a favorite camping app that you recommend to other girl campers.
I do, because what I'm learning from other girl campers, to be honest with you,
Right.
they offer up a lot of apps that they use. I think for this conversation, I'm just going to focus on Gas Buddy. There are lots of apps about campsites, free campsites, hookups.
Yes,
I think
Gas
as we go
Buddy.
forward, and I talk to more people, I just know they're going to highlight some of the other apps. I think it's important for me to share useful information for people. One of those things on my podcast is going to be current gas prices or fuel prices,
Right.
so diesel
Right,
too.
right.
That's an app that I've just recently started utilizing weekly for my role as Girl Camper Guide. So I'll go with that. Gas Buddy, where you can find the cheapest gas in the area that's local for you.
Perfect. As we begin to wrap it up, do you have any final words of campfire wisdom to share with our audience today?
Let me think here for a second. And this is what I think I'm going to go with. Because I'm part of several camping groups on Facebook, a trend I see is people making things more difficult than they need to be by overthinking things. I find, especially with camping, the most simple answer is the right answer. So don't overthink it. Don't worry yourself into some sort of camping conniption before you ever hit the road. I just want people to keep it simple and have fun. I don't know that those are actually words of wisdom, but that's what comes to mind when you ask me that question today.
All right, thank you, Catherine. You are a joy. Peace out.
Peace out to you, Eleanor.
Boom.
And I can't wait to get on the boat with you in the near future. Let's go find some
Agreed.
crystals. Let's
Agreed.
go. Thank you, girlfriend.
Love you.
Love you too.
It was so fun to share that time with Eleanor, and simultaneously, the mobile repair guy was in and out of my trailer sometimes and asking me questions, and then we had to stop for a certain period of time because he wanted to explain things to me. So I'm honestly a little bit relieved that it all came together okay. Having talked about the Grand Canyon, I want to make sure y'all jump on over to the main Girl Camper page and check out all of the information for the trip Janine is planning to go down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. That is going to be, don't you know it, an amazing trip. Now, I'm not going to be going down the river with them for a variety of reasons. I'm considering possibly connecting with them when they get on the river, get off the river. I still need to check out my training schedule and see if that's going to work for me. But if you can make that trip, boy, talk about a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. I'm sure you'll be glad if you participate in that. Also, it's really fun to talk about my little Brussels Griffon rescue dog. I had so much fun with him that trip. If you're not familiar with that breed, they kind of look like Yoda. So from a distance, he actually did look kind of human, especially if I had him in a little gray hoodie. I used to get infant clothes for him from Old Navy, and people would always think they were coming up on a real human child. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I'm looking forward to tagging along with Paul and Eleanor on some weekend campouts this year. There are several locations within an hour or two drive from me that make weekend getaways really easy. I'm also looking forward to spending more time at the coast. My favorite place to camp is Westport Beach Campground north of Fort Bragg. It's now a KOA. Maybe you've heard of it before. It used to be privately owned and then it sold. There are campsites right next to the beach, and tent campers are allowed to pitch their tents on the beach. I like to get up early and walk the beach with my camera before other people leave footprints and before dogs and kids disturb the natural arrangements of seaweed, driftwood, and seashells left in the sand as the tide goes out. I like to capture those with my camera. Also, at that location, there have been times where if I hike up to the left or the right, I can have the beach to myself for long periods of time. So that to me is extraordinary, that there are still places on this planet where I can be by myself on the beach for a certain period of time. Now, Westport Beach books early for 4th of July, Christmas, and New Year, so you should be aware of that if you plan to go. One year, we arrived the week before 4th of July and stayed through the holiday. I like to collect seashells every morning and then take them back to the campsite and arrange them like a puzzle or a mosaic, if you will, on the picnic table. Every day then, that seashell mosaic increases in size. When all the campers arrived for 4th of July, I was kept very busy chatting with people who walked by and they'd stop thinking that I was selling seashells. So, I always have a backup business if I need one. I think I have a photo of one of my arrangements of seashells. I'll look for that and I'll include it in the show notes for this episode. Soon you'll be able to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook and the Girl Camper NorCal webpage once we get the microsite up and my email established. It is my mission to share information, resources, and gear to increase the ease and, of course, the fun factor of your camping experiences. Thank you for joining me here on this Girl Camper NorCal journey. Be sure to add this podcast to your list of favorites and please do share it with your girl camping friends. I invite you to visit the Girl Camper NorCal chapter website for my camp camera tips, my camping pics, latest news articles, and links to the main Girl Camper page. Plan to listen to the next episode as we share what's happening on the back roads of America the Beautiful. Until next time, remember to camp like a girl. Here's to your fun and safe travels. Many thanks to our camper-in-chief, Janine Pettit.